In this video segment for the Grandview Build House for Homes project, we're going to go through the process of placing the doors and windows. We'll take a look at the defaults involved, placing the windows and doors, dimensioning, updating the dimensions from the automatic dimensions. I'm going to go through and create a door and window schedule, and then I'll show you the process I used in creating the layout view that you see behind the title screen here. In the completed project, you can see the doors and windows that we've used. I'm going to go through and I'm going to begin with the garage doors, the exterior doors, then I'll place the windows. So let's open up the plan where we left off and go through the process. I'm going to begin by placing the garage door using the garage door tool. I've already set the default for the style of door that I want. Let's go ahead and place another one in this area. And this door, I want to set it to be 18 feet, and I'll just change the width here to be 18 feet. You can center these objects using the center tool found in the lower edit menu. Come in here, highlight the area you want to center it on, and it will center that exactly on that wall. The next door I'm going to place is a sliding door just to the right of the entryway. I'm going to click over here and place the sliding door. Go ahead and make some adjustments to this door. First of all, the slider door, let's go ahead and change the width of that to 120. And then on the options panel, I'm going to go ahead and change that to a 3-panel door. And then the next door I'm going to place is a hinge door for the entryway. Let's go ahead and click in the center of this area, make some changes to this door. I'm going to change the width to be 72 inches. On the bottom frame down here, I'm going to change that to be 30 inches. And as I make these changes and press the tab key, you can see the updates. On the lights panel, let's go ahead and change this to be a normal standard pattern. And then we'll change the lights across to be 2. And the lights vertical to be 4. Again, press the tab key, you can see the update. That's all the changes I want to make for that entry door. For the side lights, I want a door that's very similar to this. So I'm going to go ahead and use this door, create a copy of it, and I'm just going to slide that off to the side over here. And then I'm going to make some changes to it. First of all, I'm going to set the width back to 24 inches. And this side light won't need hardware, so on the hardware panel I'm going to come in here on the hardware panel and I'm going to remove that for the interior and the exterior. That's all the changes for the side light. Let's go ahead and select our main door. Use the center tool. Let's center that on the center of this room, and then I'll bump the side light door over. And I'm going to use the copy and reflect tool to reflect that around the entry door using the copy tool, reflect tool around the center of the door. That's a quick way to place that other side light. Now I'm going to come back and place a couple of windows above that. So using the window tool, let's click above that entry door and let's open up the window and change it from the default. My default window is using a casement. Let's change that to fixed glass. Change the width to be 72 and then the height to be 32. And then for the floor to bottom, I'm going to set that just above the entry door at 96 3/8. On the lights panel, let's go in and remove all of the lights. So we'll just come in here and set that to be 0. Remove all of the lights out of there. Close the dialog. And like we did with the door earlier, we'll take this window, use the copy tool, place a window over here to the side, make adjustments to this, and I'll set the width here to be 24 inches. Close the dialog. And then I'll just use the center tool and center that on the side light here. While it's still selected, let's use the copy and reflect about. We can create one right on the other side. And that pretty much wraps up the entry door with the transom windows. Now one of the things that I like to do is block these and add them into the library. And if I block this and treat it as a mold unit, it will come in the window schedule as one. I've shift selected all 3 units. There's a block command down here in the lower edit called Make Mold Unit. And then I'll do the same thing with the doors. Go ahead and select all 3 of those units using the block or Make Mold Unit. When I do my door schedule, this will show up as a single window and this will show up as a single door. And on the front of the house, let's continue with a window in the master bedroom area. Let's go ahead and place a window in the center of this room, make adjustments to it. Again, let's open up this default window and make a few changes. Some of the changes from the default window, this will be a fixed glass window. Let's set the width to be 7 feet. And then we're going to add a few more grids in here. Let's go into the lights panel and I'll change that from 3 to 6. You can see the update, and that's all the changes for that window. 2 more windows on each side. Let's go ahead and place one window on the left side to begin with and make a couple of changes in here. On the lights across, I'm going to change that to 2. And then on the general panel, let's go ahead and change the width of this to be 24 inches. And then I'm going to lower it to be 94 3/8 inch. And then on the casement, let's change the swing to be a right hinge. Close the dialog. And let's go ahead and use the copy and reflect tool around that window. Copy, reflect around that window. And again, I'm going to group select these 3 windows, mold them by making them a mold unit. That way when I order them from the window shop, it'll come in as a single unit. I'm going to finish placing the exterior doors using the door tool. Let's go ahead and place a hinge door in the back of the kitchen back in this area. And let me go ahead and rotate around. I'm going to also place one in the master bedroom right in this area in the corner. Go ahead and place one more door right in here. And then the final exterior door, if I rotate around on the side of the garage over here, let's go ahead and place another hinge door. I'm going to have to make some modifications to this one from the default. Let me open this door up, make some changes. I'm going to browse out to the library, and I'm going to search for door E21 out of the library. Go ahead and choose that, and then I'm going to set the dimension of this down to 80 inches. Again, press the tab key to get the update. And then I can just use the material eyedropper off of the casing from that library door and apply it onto that object. I'm going to place a few piano windows in the garage here. Let's go ahead and start with the first window over here, and let's make some adjustments in here. Let's pull that up and position it roughly where we want it. Open it up and let's set the dimensions of it. So I'm going to make it a 22 by 22 window, and from the floor to bottom I'm going to come in here and set that at, let's go ahead and change that to 60. Make the adjustment. The window type, I'm going to set this to be fixed and then remove the lights out of that window. Go ahead and close the dialog. With that window set at 22 inches, I'm going to use the multiple copy tool, and I'm going to load the value in here of 24 inches and make 3 copies of that window. So let's go ahead and pull 3 copies of that window out here. That's a pretty common window that I'm going to use in the rest of the design, so I may just grab a copy of that before I block it, and I'm going to paste a copy of it over here in the bedroom. Just click the paste button, and then let's just adjust the floor to height in here. Under the general panel, let's change the floor to top. I'm trying to set all my windows the same at 96. We'll go ahead and close that, and now I can do a multiple copy on that. 24 inches is still loaded in there. And then once I get that window set, I can actually now block these windows, come in here and block them if that's the way I'm going to buy them from the window manufacturer, and mold those units. Now if I rotate around, I'm just kind of placing these windows without dimensions. We'll come back in here and dimension these. I'm going to take these 2 windows here, and let's go ahead and center those in the room using the center tool. And again, before I create a block of those, I'm going to take one of those windows and I'm going to create a copy of it. Control C on the keyboard, Control V over here in the Jack and Jill bathroom. Now I can block these 2 windows using the block command down here, and then copy and reflect about, again, the Jack and Jill, and that will put it right in the center of the other bedroom. Alright, let's rotate around and put some windows in the back of the house. Again, let's use the window tool here. Click and place a window over in this area. And in the width and height, let's go ahead and change that to be a 48 by 52, and I'm going to change that to be a double casement window. Again, you see the preview update. Go ahead and accept all those changes, and I'm just going to create a copy of that. Again, Control C on the keyboard, Control V over here in this bedroom. And a bit more busy work. I've already blocked the 2 windows in that back bedroom, so back in this area again, copy that, and I'm going to paste it over in this room, and I'll paste another one over in the shower area, and then finally one more in the bathroom. Now for the window in the shower, I'm going to make a couple of changes to this window. I'm going to change that to a hopper window, and then I'm also going to change the width of that to be 32 inches. Place one more window over here in the bedroom. We'll just slide that in the corner over here, and we'll just leave that as is for now. Slide over into the living area. I'm going to set a series of fixed windows in here. Let's go ahead and make some changes to this window. Again, I'll change it from the default casement window to fixed glass. Change the width in here to 42 by 80. Again, each time I make those changes, it does an update. On the lights panel, let's come in and remove those lights out. Go ahead and zero those out. Let's make sure the floor to bottom is set. I want to change that to be 24 inches in here. And then we'll go ahead and close the dialog. While the window is still selected, let's use the copy tool down here in the lower edit menu. And I'm going to pull a copy over here, and as I'm doing that, I'm going to press the tab key. I'm going to enter in 48 inches, slide that over 48 inches. And then once that's in place, we'll go ahead and use the copy and reflect about tool and just put that right on the other side. That will position those windows exact. And now I want to create a window that's above this, so I'm just going to use this tool here and create a copy of it, and we'll just slide that copy right up here. And I will need to make some changes to this because it'll be sticking out of the wall. Let's go ahead and make the changes. Change the height to be 24 inches, and then let's go ahead and set the floor to bottom at 108 and 3/8. and that should be it. So again, I'll just use the copy tool. Again, slide this over, press the tab key, and we'll type in 48 inches. And then I'll use the copy and reflect tool around the center of the window and get that placed. Let's go ahead and slide over here a little bit and get the kitchen windows. So I'll just go ahead and place the window over here for the kitchen and then make some modifications to this one. So again, fixed glass, and the dimensions of this are 54 by 72. And then I'll just skip ahead and place the remaining windows. Now I've completed placing the remaining doors and windows not only on the main floor but also the few that we had up on the second floor. You can see those are placed as well. I want to go back into the floor plan and talk about how to clean up your dimensions. Now the automatic exterior dimension tool can automatically update those dimensions. Before I select that and update the dimensions, let's take a look at the defaults that we're going to use to dimension those openings. Let's go into our default settings, and underneath the dimensions auto exterior, you can see that some of the information in here, it's going to the wall dimension layer. That if you're building a new home or remodeling, that's the way you want to set that. If you're just doing surfaces in Interior Designer, that's where you'd have yours set. For the openings, again, if you're an interior designer, you might do the casings, and in this case I'm going to change this to use the centers for the windows and the openings. Let's go ahead and remove sides. Now that that's loaded in there and we click the automatic dimension tool, it's going to place those dimensions exactly into the center, and we can kind of zoom in here and see and inspect the way the dimensions look. Some of these you may want to clean up slightly. If you select dimension line itself, there is a move handle in here and you can move these dimensions around to clean them up. Beware, as soon as you make a change to these and then you go and refresh your automatic dimensions, as soon as you've made a change to this, it becomes a edited dimension and you'll get a duplicated dimension if you click over the top of that. So I usually wait to clean up my dimensions till the end of the project. Once I've kind of got things in position, I'll use the automatics and then I'll go through and clean these dimensions up the way that I want. And again, you can click on these windows and make modifications if you want to set that to be 3 feet to the center. Make any changes you want in positioning these around the design. You noticed in the 3D view I somewhat haphazardly just placed these doors and windows in here. And again, if you want to position these exactly and change these dimensions and clean them up, this is a way that you can do this. If you take a look at my completed floor plan here, on my floor plan, I ended up dimensioning to the frame of the window, and you can see the way that I ended up cleaning up that dimension in this way. Sometimes I like to know where the casing is. In particular, in some cases, if you go to the interior of the room, I like to know how much space I have for my casing or my door frame into the wall. But I think most people like to use centers, so that's the way I wanted to show you how to set up your dimensions to go to the center of that object. When you are creating your door and window schedules, I like to create those in a separate CAD detail. Let's take a look at how I do that, and I'll share the tips that I use. While you're working in Chief Architect, there is a space underneath your CAD tool for CAD detail management, and I'll put all of my schedules in here. It's a separate work area, and I'll just come in here. Let's create one for our doors. And I usually like to give it a good descriptive name. We'll open up that detail. And now I have a blank workspace in here that I can work with. Under the Tools menu, you can come in here, go into your schedules, and place a door schedule. Now when I place this door schedule, it's coming in with my defaults. I've saved these in my profile plan. That means that it already has the column for the thumbnail picture and all of the columns that you see along the top. At any time, if you want to modify this, you can open up the schedule by double clicking on it, and you can control all of those columns. Here are the available columns, and here are the columns that I want to include, and you can simply click on these and remove them, or click on these and add them. You can also include based on floor. So if you come in and you want to do it by floor, you can come in here, choose the floor. You can also include your doors by room. Be careful with doors because sometimes doors go into other rooms, and sometimes I like to save that just for windows by room or for cabinets. In the schedule itself, let's go ahead and set that back to all floors. In the schedule itself, if you highlight it, there is a small little square in here, and you can pull and reorder your doors and windows. Let's say I wanted my entry door to be up at the top. That way you can have that information at the top and control the order of it. Now If you go back to the floor plan, notice that this call out for the entry door is D01 and the description is a mold unit. Let's go back into the floor plan over here. And you can see the call outs for the doors are now changed from the nomenclature of 3080. It's now using that call out. And also there's a description. There's the mold unit. If I select on this object, you can come into the object information panel in here and we can call it the entry door. And back in the schedule you'll see that change in the description column, and that's how you can control that information. It's always like to have good descriptive information in the door and window schedule. Let's take a look at generating the window schedule in the same way. In creating the window schedule, I'll do it the same way. Under the CAD menu, CAD Detail Management, choose New, give it a good descriptive name. That will open up to a blank workspace in here, and under the Tools menu, come into the Tools, Schedules, and Windows. And again, my default may look differently than when you place one. This is because inside of this schedule, I've set my defaults to have certain labels, certain call-out looks to them. Under the General panel, you can give it the same thing we did, Window Schedule. You can do it by all floors or by room. And again, you can choose which columns that you want, which columns you want to exclude. Also down here, objects to include or exclude. You may want to include or exclude vents for the basement or the crawl space might be considered a window. You can exclude those. I usually do that in my window schedule, and those are defaults that I have set up. Again, you can take these while they're highlighted and move them up and down. It will control the way your schedule looks. So if you want to resort this, you can do that. Also, if you go back into the floor plan and you see the window label in here, if you want to go back to the nomenclature, you can control that back here in the schedule. On the label panel, you can come in here, choose to use the call-out label, and then when you go back to the floor plan, you'll return back to the typical nomenclature you might see, and that's controlled through the schedule label. To create your construction drawings, I send those schedules directly out to the layout page. You can see my window schedule on the left, my door schedule on the right, and then I also have text notes in here for each one. My window flashing detail is actually an image that I save in my plan. And then for the larger thumbnails, for some of the more important openings, I've done a view to CAD. I'm going to show you that process next on how I do that. Now what I do is I'll take an elevation view of the front of the house. Once the elevation is up, I'm going to do underneath the CAD menu a tool called CAD Detail from View, and that's going to create basically a line drawing of this and put it in a CAD detail. Once you click that, again these are a bunch of lines, and I'll just kind of use my trim and extend tools. Let me go ahead and change my preference setting here for my editing, and usually what I'll do is to change this to be selected intersected. That way when I come in here and draw a marquee around certain things, I can easily cut this out pretty quickly. Let's kind of zoom in here and I'll just trim this out. And now I've kind of got just the components that I want. Now for these side lights, those actually aren't openings, and my opening indicator was on, so I'm just going to remove those off of these side lights, and I may have to zoom in to get all of those lines up. But I'll just kind of remove those components, and then using the line tool, which is the W on the keyboard, I'll just kind of draw this around and snap that into place. Let me clean up these openings on this side real quickly. Then I'll finish cleaning up some of these mulling lines that I don't want on the entryway. Once I'm finished with this, let's go ahead and use the trim command and get rid of these extra lines. While that line's selected, let's use the trim, and I'm just going to come in here and trim those lines off. Get those cleaned up. Again, select the line, use the trim tool, and I'll just clean up those extra lines real quickly. Drag that right through there, any of the lines touching. Now I've got the view that I'm after. A lot of times what I'll do, this is good enough, but I'll just draw a marquee around this and block it so that I don't have a problem accidentally deleting any of the lines. Now that that's blocked, I can actually send that out to the layout. Let me open up a blank layout and I'll go through the steps. I have opened my template for the door and window schedules. I've already got all my notes in here, some of the energy values that I use, and also my labels. If I toggle back over to that elevation view, which is embedded in the floor plan file, let's go ahead and go in here, File, Send a Layout, and we'll define the scale. Let's go ahead and set the scale up here, and let's try 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. Once that's on the layout sheet, you can select it. Again, I hold the Control key down, gives you a little more flexibility on where you want to move it. Pull that down. We can go over to the door schedule, and we'll send that out to layout. I'm going to send this out quite a bit smaller. We'll try that at 3/16 equals a foot. Same page. That was actually my window schedule. Let's go ahead and pull that over. What I ended up doing on my window schedule is I did it by floor so I wouldn't have too many windows. You can see there's no way to get 2 columns out of this, and I'll just truncate that off. But I ended up in my, if you double click on this in your schedule, you can change that, which is what I ended up doing, and just including it by floor 1 and floor 2 in that case. Let's go over to the door schedule and let's send that out to the layout. File, send to layout, and again send it at a smaller scale. So here's a final look at the layout that I have set up. Again, I chose my windows based on floor. This is a flashing detail that I had as an image that I save in my plans, and then you can see I had additional cutouts for each one of those. That concludes the door and window section for the Grandview Build House for Homes project. We kind of began by placing some of the doors and windows, and then we positioned them using the dimension tool. I blocked some of those using a mold tool. If you're going to order your windows or your entry door as a single unit, that way it'll show up in your schedule just like you would order it. We created our schedules. We created those in a CAD detail, which is included in the plan file. It's a separate workspace. It kind of keeps your work environment nice and clean, and then we sent out each one of those particular views out to what we call our layout sheet, and that way we could organize our views and set it to a particular scale. Thanks for watching the video.